The details and terminology of various troubleshooting methodologies can vary, and there are no precise processes for troubleshooting computer-related problems. However, most methodologies share some common processes, procedures, and terminology, which this topic identifies. Classification. When an end user first discovers and reports a computer problem, a series of classification processes begins. During these processes, you gather information from the end user in an attempt to establish the problem's nature and scope. The initial discussion might reveal information that results in an immediate resolution to the problem, but with more complex or serious problems, you must continue to troubleshoot the issue to resolve it. Problems that affect many end users are more serious in terms of their impact on organizational productivity, and you must resolve them more quickly. Classification allows you time to determine the scope and impact of problems so that you can prioritize them. Even if you are immediately able to resolve a problem, you must log the problem by using your organization's methodology. Appropriate logging procedures ensure that you do not lose any incident reports. Access to detailed incident reports allows organizations to monitor their IT systems more effectively and make informed decisions about those systems. Test. When you have prioritized and logged a reported incident, the testing phase starts. During the testing phase, you use a number of processes to determine the probable cause of a reported problem. You might start by listing the possible causes. Typically, you might try to divide and isolate these possible causes. In computer systems, dividing and isolating possible causes might mean making a distinction between server and workstation-related issues, hardware and software, operating systems and applications. You can eliminate possible causes with this process, which in turn allows you to determine probable causes. When you reduce the list of possible causes to a manageable number, you can start a testing process. The testing process helps you determine the probable cause of the problem as you work through your list of potential causes. One way to troubleshoot an issue is to reproduce the problem in a test environment. If you can reproduce a problem easily, you likely can determine the probable cause. If a problem is more difficult to reproduce, you must study your results and perhaps modify your initial thoughts about the problem's probable cause. Escalation. If you cannot determine a resolution during the initial testing phase, you must either consult additional documentation or escalate the problem. If you suspect that the issue stems from a component, you can escalate the problem to the component's manufacturer. For other issues, you can escalate the issue within your organization if you have the requisite internal resources. Your organization should have an established process for escalating reported incidents to your organization's second-tier support staff. The second-tier support staff then asks questions to classify the problem's scope and assign it a priority level. Report. When you resolve an incident, you must document the resolution. Recording any changes to your IT system's configuration is an important step. Problems often reoccur, and when you document them properly, you can save time resolving subsequent occurrences of the same problem. Examine the process of problem reporting. Organizations benefit from having a process that all end users understand, with respect to the proper way to report support problems. A problem reporting process should include problem detection, self-help options that the user performs, how to contact their help desk, problem classification and initial support, and then problem escalation, resolution, and closure. The following sections describe these stages in more detail. Detect problems. The process of reporting a problem starts when an end user detects a problem with their computer hardware, operating system, or application. If the problem is intermittent, the end user might take no immediate action. If the problem occurs again, the end user might take further action. End users might attempt to resolve the problem themselves or contact the help desk for assistance. Encourage self-help attempts by end users. Whenever possible, encourage end users to help themselves. You can help end users resolve some problems quickly if the end user stops and thinks about the event or problem that occurred. If you provide adequate training for your end users, they'll have optimal performance from their applications and hardware, encounter fewer problems, and be more likely to resolve many problems themselves. Contact the help desk. No matter how much training or encouragement end users receive, there always are problems that they can't resolve. It's important to provide a proper procedure for contacting your help desk, and it's even more important to ensure that your end users understand this procedure. During this phase, help desk personnel should record the problem's details in an incident record. If you don't already, consider using a database in which to record details of reported problems. You then can update the incident record in the help desk ticketing system as you work toward a resolution. If you can't resolve the reported problem, assign the problem to other individuals in your organization. For complex problems, you might assemble a specialist team to resolve the problem. Update the incident record in the ticketing database to track information about activity that you or others perform in relation to the reported problem. Detailed classification and initial support. After an end user contacts the help desk staff should attempt to classify the problem and then determine the problem's scope and urgency. You and your fellow help desk staff can do this by asking end users specific questions about their problems, such as, who else has the same problem? If the problem is widespread, this points to a more general problem, and the problem is less likely to be only with the end user's particular device. Additionally, problems affecting many end users are more urgent than those that affect only one end user. When did you first notice the problem? For example, it might be that a device never worked properly. It's useful to know if the device has never worked properly, because this might indicate a problem with deployment rather than usage. What changed around the same time that you noticed the problem? If the end user recently installed new applications or updated drivers, and the problem arose after these changes possibly contributed to the problem that the end user is reporting. During this phase, you might determine a probable cause of the reported problem, but be careful not to jump to any conclusions. This could waste significant time and resources. Your goal during this phase is to define the problem accurately. Escalate a problem. When a problem requires escalation between support tiers or to external vendors, ensure that you record an appropriate level of detail that you can pass to the next support level. You should have a clearly defined escalation procedure to ensure that you do this efficiently. Before you escalate the problem, you might want to include the following information in the incident report: a precise description of the reported problem, a record of any error messages associated with the problem, a record of the resolution attempts that support staff made and the results of each attempted fix, a record relating to any diagnostics tools that support staff use, the length of time that can elapse before you must escalate the problem. You might consider escalation to external vendors when you can't resolve the problem. You have insufficient internal resources to resolve the problem. Your organization doesn't have the required skills to resolve the problem. You've identified the problem's probable cause, and it lies with a specific non-Microsoft component. Whenever you escalate a problem, always retain ownership of the problem and use the database record to track progress toward a resolution. Additionally, ensure that you provide any necessary assistance to other support tiers and external vendors. Resolve a problem. After you determine a probable cause and develop an action plan, you should perform an assessment of the plan, which should include details regarding any liaisons with any specialist support staff that helped implement the plan, completion of any required requests according to change management procedures, analysis of the possible impact of proposed changes on the IT infrastructure, testing details for the proposed plan, details of plans to roll back changes if they don't achieve the desired result. After you assess the proposed action plan, you can execute it. If the action plan doesn't resolve the problem, consider whether to roll back the changes that you have made according to the action plan assessment. You also must revisit the classification phase, because it's possible that the initial diagnosis and classification were incorrect. Close a problem. After you resolve a problem successfully, you must close it. To close a problem, update any database records that relate to it and indicate that you implemented a permanent resolution for the problem. You then can close the database record. Summary. Implementing standard troubleshooting methodologies is key to providing effective support to end users and minimizing costs associated with downtime. The environment can be a mix of on-premises and cloud-based services, which can have different support dynamics. When an issue arises, having an established process of classifying, testing, escalating, or recording the incident, along with clear steps for those processes, can reduce the time it takes to resolve an issue.